All right. So I have 200 slides for you. No, I'm kidding. This is the only one. So thanks Nico for inviting me. He promised me great weather, so that's why I'm here, and I'm very happy to see the rain in Milan. So I want to touch on two things. First, maybe tell you the story of Criteo, and maybe give you a few lessons learned and advice on how to build a billion-dollar company. But before I start, maybe a few points on myself. So I'm a French engineer, born in France, raised in France. After I finished my studies, I went to the US to work for Microsoft. At the time, it was one of the great company you could hope to work for, and I had a great time there. I learned a lot of things. I spent 3.5 years in the US. Then I kind of had enough of the US. I wanted to come back to Europe, and I had learned what I wanted to learn. So I stayed at Microsoft, but went to Germany for a year. Didn't really like it so much. So that's when I really thought about starting a company, and I quit Microsoft, came back to my parents' place near Paris in the countryside, asked for a DSL line, because at the time it was not high-speed internet, and started working on my company. That was 2004. I was 27 at the time. So the first thing I did was I called on my friends, as everybody does do when they start a company. And one of them said yes. He came 6 months later. He became a co-founder of the company. And then another 6 months later, we were now in an incubator in Paris, a place where you have lots of startups. And we kind of randomly met a guy who had a similar project. That guy was JB Rudel, who's now the CEO of the company. After having met, we quickly realized that Romain and I, we were two techies. We wanted to find a CEO, and he was a CEO without tech guys, and he wanted to build a tech company. So we quickly decided to merge the teams, and that's the founding team of Criteo. So soon after, we raised first round of money with the French investors. We raised 3 million euros. Then I called my friends again. And then a few of them came this time. A few more came, which greatly helped build the company. So from 2005 to 2008, we really struggled to find commercial success. We had built a recommendation technology. We thought, we could do so many things with recommendation technology, but we tried to sell it through an API first, and it was too complex to use. We tried to use it through widgets, so to help e-commerce websites customize the experience on their site by recommending products, etc. Things that Amazon was doing already on its site, but we wanted to provide that as a service for many websites in general, and e-commerce in particular. This had some traction, but not enough for us to declare victory. So we thought again, and in 2008, that's how we first tried to do advertising. And it was a very simple observation. Most ads suck. They when you look at an ad, it's really not relevant. Clearly, it was not made for you. It was made for you. Well, you don't know who in many cases. And they don't match the user intent. So we thought it's something very easy we can do. We can generate ads that are unique and generate it on the fly in real time to match each and every user intent. And we thought that if the ad is relevant, there is a good chance that it will work better, and it will be win-win for everyone: win for the user, win for the advertiser, and win for us, because we'll have a good business. And that turned out to be true. So after 2008, we knew we had the right product, and the company, the revenue grew very quickly. We already had a lot of from the past years. We already have had some contacts with e-commerce sites, so they were happy to see this new product and because it was actually working. So we quickly opened in 2009 neighboring countries, Italy, Germany. We were in the UK already. 2010 we opened the US, and then 2013, as Nico said, we IPO'd on Nasdaq. And now we are still listed on Nasdaq with a valuation above $2 billion. So today the company has over 1,000 employees across the world. During the first 9 months of 2014, we had revenues of 500 million euros, with growth around like 60% year-on-year growth. So that's where we are today. So that's it for the quick presentation of Criteo. What I want to tell you is more of the behind the scenes story. You know, what you don't know about Criteo, what you don't know about what happened. So I would say it's to sum it up in one sentence. It's a story of relentless pursuit of excellence. We had to reinvent ourselves so many times. We had to fight crises so many times. We cannot count them anymore. So you know, the story from outside is a very nice story. You see the curve going up and to the right. The story from inside is a story where you have to reinvent ourselves many times. So I want to touch on a few points. First, on technical points. We have a few saying at Criteo, and one of them is no fear. Or go deep or go home. This is kind of the saying we have. It means that we had to break things and rebuild them over and over and over again, because for two things. Well, the first thing is when you design something, whether it's hardware, software, or anything, usually you don't get it right the first time. So when it's software, it's pretty easy to say, okay, let me, you know, we've done something, it's great, but let me restart from scratch and do it better. And usually you have to do it better because what you've done at the beginning either doesn't scale, or you didn't anticipate new needs that you have, etc. So we had to break and rebuild so many times. And one of the things that I've learned the hard way is that you have to. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to make errors, and you have to admit them. I remember one meeting when I was with a few colleagues, and I was saying, this sucks. Who coded this? And we look it up, and say, oh, it's me actually. It was 4 years ago, and it's fine. You know, you have to accept that you make progress over time, and what you thought was a great idea three years ago, maybe a stupid idea now because you've learned so much about your business. So one of the things we also discovered along the way is you have to optimize for the long term. And by long term, I mean when we started the company, we thought, oh, we should do what is good for Criteo, and that's great, but that's great for the short term only. You have to do what is good for the customer, and that's what's going to maximize the long-term growth. And maximizing what is good for the customer, it means, for example, not trying to make the most money right now, because that would be maximizing for the short term. So we had, as you can imagine, lots of internal debates about strategy and what to do, and but I'm happy to say that we took the right stance, which is difficult to take, which is okay. Sometimes you have to do things that look bad in the short term, but will have fruit in the long term. And one of the things that I keep saying things that I believe we did good, and then I will go back to things we did bad. One of the things we did well is that we kept things simple. You know, when you are an engineer, when you go back home and you talk to your friends and your girlfriend, it's very nice to say, oh, I work on something very complicated and I'm the only one to know how it works. it's good for the ego, but it's really bad for the company. At Criteo, we like engineers to say at home, oh, I work on something very simple, and I work with so many people on this. So this is, of course, a joke, but it's to say that complex and complicated are not the same thing, right? We like the world is complex, so we have to make something that is adjusting to the complexity of the world, but that thing doesn't need to be complicated. It can be simple. Just think of a flock of birds, right? It's complex, but it's simple. Each bird has very simple rules to follow. You know, don't fly on the neighboring bird and avoid obstacles. That's pretty much it. The result is very complex, but still simple. So on management, again, we had to. We went through so many crises, and one of the things we did, we always tried to not anticipate things. So at the beginning, we thought we were visionaries, and we hired people. We said, oh, we will need an operation manager, or we will need a marketing VP, and for 3 years we were changing products every other week. So actually, this was way too much in advance, and we wasted time, and those guys were not happy, and we had to fire them, etc. So we took the other stance later. We said, okay, until we really need to hire that person, we won't hire them. So that means that you are typically understaffed always, and you have to deal with your problems. But you are pretty sure that when you hire someone, you hire them for a good reason, and they will have lots of stuff to do from the first day. So talking about world expansion, because I think that's an interesting topic for the day. So one thing we didn't do very well, we tried to expand too early, and again we tried to when we created the UK office, we were not ready. We didn't have the product that was scalable and proven in France, so it was very difficult to manage, and we had lots of issues. So I would say, like, make sure you're ready before you start doing that. Otherwise, you will waste a lot of energy and resources and money. And then for other countries, so right now Criteo is in more than 100 countries, I believe. I would say we've tried pretty much every technique. The one that worked well for us in Europe was to hire junior people from, let's say, from Italy, from Germany, in Paris, bring them with our Paris team, with the R&D team, so they could really feel the culture, the company, the product, and everything that is changing almost every day. So those junior people then start selling the product in their own country. And once we have significant traction in the country, we create an office in the country. So now we have an office in Italy, we have an office in Germany, etc. And we do the same thing now. So we open Russia from Germany because it's a much closer country. You have lots of Russians living in Munich. We open Poland from Germany, etc. So that proved to work well for us. Of course, for very far countries like Japan, US, you cannot do that because of the time difference. So in Japan, we were lucky to hire a very senior person that proved to be the right person. And in the US, we decided to move our CEO. So the CEO moved to the West Coast, and we even had a US investor invest in the company. We didn't really need money at the time, but we really wanted to have a US investor to help us be somewhere on the map in the US, pretend to be a US company, and hope that this investor would help us open a few doors. So we did that. It helped us, but still the US is a very hard country to crack. So it took us a a very long time to be successful there. Let's. So let me talk a bit about competition. What happened to during those 10 years? So when we started, we had no real competition. And one day, I remember we were still in a small office in Paris. We discovered that the company was doing the same thing as us, and we were shocked. We were like, oh, what's going to happen to us? Like, they copied us. It's a shame. And we were pretty scared because they were calling all our clients, of course, and we thought we might lose all our clients. So over the years, we got used to that because we in many markets we got local competitors, and then we got bigger competitors, and then one day everybody was a competitor. Like, everybody that does some kind of digital marketing tries to do what Criteo is doing. Even Google is now trying to do what we do. But we got used to that, and we found out that it's pretty good in the end because it keeps us on our toes, and we would not have been as innovative as long if we had not had the competition. And also sometimes they have good ideas, so it's good too. So things we could have done better. One of the things that we were pretty proud of, and we are still pretty proud of at Criteo, is it's the culture, especially in the engineering team, where we are very direct and there is no bullshit. Like, we really say what we mean, and that's great, especially when you are small, because there is no misunderstanding, right? But as you grow and as people, especially, get more dispersed across the globe. I was in Silicon Valley for 2.5 years, for example. That culture becomes a bit more difficult to scale because you need to have super close relationships to say hard things all the time. If you say hard things all the time to people you don't meet so often, you won't have good relationships for too long. So we needed to soften a bit our culture over time as the team grew and people knew less each other. And the second thing we could have done better is scaling management. When you start a company, when you start a startup, you don't really care about how am I going to organize a 1,000-employee company, and you typically take the road of having when a team grows too big, you put a manager on top, and then you put another manager on top, and then another manager on top, and then you end up with a hierarchy of managers or VPs and etc. And that has all the consequences you can imagine. This is something that we did naturally, that most companies do naturally, which is super hard to anticipate when you build a company for the first time. And which is hard to undo after you've done it. So you have to deal with it. So just wanted to before I move to the next point, which is more generally the lesson learned and how to build many unicorns in Europe. I just wanted to say that I've recently decided to leave the company, Criteo. So I'm no longer in the company since 4 months ago. I remain an advisor with the company, but I decided to do so because I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to start again from scratch, and it was a good time to do that because the company is doing well and there are no big fires to extinguish within the company. So unlike in some of the previous years. So moving on to the next point. So how to build a $1 billion company. So first, I should start by saying that being in Europe, when we look at the news, it's all sad news. There's a lot of unemployment. Everybody is pessimistic, and I would like to convey a message of optimism. I think the world has never been innovating as fast as it is now, and I think for people who want to start companies, unemployment is great. It means you have a lot of people to that are easy to hire. So it's the perfect time to create companies. Second point about risk, many people I meet, they tell me, oh, it's too risky to create companies. So I want to reassure people on this point. In 2004, when I left my job at Microsoft, I had a very nicely paid job, expat, US, Germany, etc. So I told my family, so I'm quit and then I'm going to go home. People thought I was crazy, and my family, my friends thought I was crazy. And I told them at the time, well, the only risk I'm taking is the risk to succeed. And I still believe it's true today. What risk are you really taking when you start a company? Well, not much. You take the risk of quitting a job that, if it's in a big corporation, is likely to become boring at some point. It's likely to be slow-moving. It's likely to be bureaucratic, etc. And maybe at some point, that big company will do layoff, and you won't have a job anymore. So it's an opportunity to live an amazing adventure, to be in control, to explore and change the world. So please do create companies. And then going back to the billion-dollar company, I would say don't be afraid to dream big. You may find that if I want to really change something really big, it's going to be insanely difficult. But actually, it's not, and might be easier to dream big than to dream small. Because if you dream big, you'll be able to bring more engineers with you, more people who want to be with you on that journey. And if you dream big, you can convince more investors to invest with you, etc. And there is a good chance that no matter what, you're going to have lots of issues if you dream small or if you dream big. So you might as well dream big, because if you succeed, it will pay out more. Of course, don't wait for the perfect idea, the perfect team, and the perfect timing, because you will wait for your whole life and you will never start anything. So please get started now. Don't wait, and just get moving. One small step after another one. That's how you start. That's how you learn. And it's by learning that you do stuff. It's by moving that you generate traction. Other people will always find that you are lucky, but you are not lucky. You generate your own traction by doing stuff. I always get the question, you say, please go, but I don't have any idea what to do, right? So I'm going to give you ideas on how to build a billion-dollar company. And if you do, please, I accept a check and anything. Many people want to build cool stuff, or they say, oh, this is a very hard problem to crack. Well, cool doesn't mean useful, and hard doesn't mean useful either. I think the best thing to think about is, okay, what is the need? And if I tell you, oh, I'm going to build an intelligent robot that can walk and do stuff for you, everybody will be, yeah, great, let's do that. But no one needs that, right? There is no need for that. So be careful and think about the need, and don't try to innovate on the need. Try to innovate on the solution that fits the need. So what are the real needs? Well, if you want to make sure you don't focus on the wrong need, take one of the biggest needs humankind has. So humankind needs communication, they need food, they need transportation, housing, they need healthcare. These are the big needs. And if you focus on one of those needs and you find a somewhat innovative solution, you're pretty sure you're going to have a big hit. So just to give you a few examples of, if you take some of the unicorns in the last 5 years, 10 years, there are not so many. You have like 40 companies, and take a look at what they do. So transportation. Who knew that making a taxi company would be cool? Well, now you know. Evernote. It's a notepad. It's a freaking notepad, right? Tesla. They build cars. Car is not the most new thing in the world, right? Landing Club, it's a bank. It's Dropbox, it's a hard drive. Like, so what I mean is that all these companies, they are very cool, but they fulfill a need that is actually quite boring. You know, like making a hard drive is quite boring. Making a car is boring, but they make it cool. So please, I beg you to pick the most boring subject and make it cool again. So anyone, insurance, food. There are lots of interesting stuff to do to make those boring needs cool again. So the question of Europe versus US. So I decided to create the company in France. I could have done it in Seattle. I knew people in Seattle. And so is Europe a good place to start companies? So a couple of points. The first thing I advise people is to create companies where your family is, where your friends are, because you will need both. You will need your family because it's a long ride, and you will need friends because the first people you're going to hire are your friends. So if you don't have your friends, you don't have your first hires. So stay where these people are. And then, of course, Europe is a bit late on funding. It's a bit late on exits because you don't have that many big companies. But it's catching up. You have more companies like Criteo. You have a few dozen unicorns now, pretty recent, and more are going to come. So it's coming. The one thing that we found at Criteo that was quite difficult being from Europe, it was hiring senior people once we had reached a given scale. So if you're looking to hire a CFO that has experience listing a company on NASDAQ based in Paris and that understands internet, it's pretty hard to find. Right? You have lots of them in Silicon Valley. If you're looking to hire a VP engineering that has scaled an infrastructure across the globe to support large-scale volume, it's pretty hard to find in France, lots of them in Silicon Valley. So again, that's part of the ecosystem that is currently, we're currently building in Europe. But that was one of the difficulties we found, which mean that we had to distribute the teams, which is again more complex to manage. And the very last thing I will say is that please never listen to experts. So don't listen to me if you call me an expert. We were advised, we were told, oh, you will never raise more than 300K. We were told, oh, please, don't go to Germany. It's impossible to go to Germany. Went to Germany, it was very easy, actually. We were told, never go to the US, you will get sued. We went to the US, we didn't get sued, etc., etc. And the last thing we were told is, please never go to China, because no company has ever managed to go to China. So we are trying to go to China right now. So make your own opinion based on facts and based on your own experience, because only you know your company. So that's it.